Hey, thanks for joining us today here at the St. Pete Catalyst. Bill DeYoung is with you again. And please welcome Stephanie Dunnam and Patrick Ryan Sullivan, who are starring in Neil Simon's Rose and Walsh up at freeFall Theater. It opens tonight, July 29th, and runs through August 28th. Hello, my friends.
Hi, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. There we are. We're all three on here. So let's talk about this show, which is, as I understand it, the last show that Neil Simon wrote. Is that correct?
I've seen two things. I've heard it was the last, and I've seen one of the last, but I believe it probably was the last to make publication.
Well, it's now that I've seen it, I saw the final draft last night. It's not a lighthearted comedy. It's certainly witty, as all of Simon's stuff is, but it tackles some darker things. Patrick, you want to talk about that a little bit? What this show kind of addresses, really?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously towards the end of Neil Simon's life, and he was thinking about a life well lived of his own, and he was writing. He was writing about death, and he was writing about what love is at death, and where we as partners in life, how we deal with each other heading towards that doorway. And I don't find it that sentimental of a piece. I do think that it's very clever and very hopeful.
It really is. And I think a lot of that is due to the fact that the two characters, Walsh, which is who you play, and Rose, Stephanie, these guys, when you see it, folks, they're writers. They are novelists, and she's a playwright, and they have this incredible history of award-winning works, and they're critically acclaimed. And so they're very, very witty people. And so the play is really a dialogue between the two of them. They are talking about, towards the end of their lives, legacy and that sort of thing. Stephanie, what are the challenges for you in playing this character? I mean, my God, she talks the whole show.
Nonstop, yeah.
What's that like for you?
Well, I mean, all I could say at the beginning was like, it's a lot of words. That's a lot of words. But it's, I think that Rose gets to have the most fun, wisecracking, and makes me, I've looked, I need to look again. It's based on Lillian Hellman and Dashiell Hammett.
Right.
and their 25-year relationship. But it makes me want to hear Lillian's voice, to kind of see whether that was completely lifted, from a friendship with her. I'll look for it. I'll find it. We're finding our own way right now, just with the material and being ready for our first audience tonight. But it's I get to make I have the most punchlines.
Well,
so I have nothing to complain about. I mean, I'm the one who gets to say the funny stuff. So
Speaking of Hammett, I mean, I did notice that there was a line, I won't spoil it for anybody, from the Maltese Falcon in the show, and it was almost so subtle, but I said, aha, because I'd heard about that being a reference. Essentially, especially the first act, is a dialogue between the two of you. And there are two other characters we should point out who take part in this. But it's essentially a dialogue between Rose and Walsh. Let me ask you, Patrick, your thoughts on the challenges of playing this particular role.
I wouldn't say that it's incredibly challenging. I mean, the most challenging part about it is Neil Simon even writes within the piece when he's talking about, he's having somebody describe my character and saying his rhythms would be something that Mozart would envy, and he's basically writing about himself. But Neil Simon's rhythms are difficult, and some of the language is difficult, and he reverses the way we would naturally want to say a sentence.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll reverse it and put the important part at the end, where I think sometimes we want to say the important part first. And the rhythms are just so musical and like Mozart, and that makes it a heightened show, but it also makes it difficult. So as far as the difficulty of it, it's that.
I mean, can we say that because of what Rose and Walsh are talking about, that Simon was most likely, and forgive me if you addressed this before, but I want to hammer this home again, that he was most likely looking at the end of his life and saying, well, what comes next?
Absolutely. And Rose even has that question towards the end of the show when he's like, let's go, Rose. And she's like, what's next? You know, and he answers that question. He's like, well, this is next. This is what happens next. You know,
let me switch gears here and ask you about working at freeFall. Stephanie, I know you did Lion in Winter, and I think that might have been thus far the only show you've done here. Am I correct? I know
That's correct. Yeah.
both of these actors, folks, if I haven't told you, have extensive credits on Broadway and touring in regional theater and on television. Patrick tap danced on Broadway and 42nd Street, which is another conversation entirely. But I wanted to, let's start with you, Stephanie. Let me talk with you about the freeFall experience. I mean, you live, as I recall, in California, so this is kind of a long way to come. What's cool about freeFall?
I'm still in storage in California, but no, I haven't lived there in a while. I was going between parents in Texas and Georgia for the last decade or more. And I've lost 3 out of 4 of my parents now. I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity to spend those years with them. I've been in Atlanta for more than 6 years, which is strictly for business because I don't have any people there. It's I have a good agent there, and the on-camera work that's available in Atlanta right now is phenomenal, you know. So I've had more auditions in the last few years than I've had since I was in my 20s. And I have been booking some things, television and film, and that's really fun because, you know, at one point I thought that might have been a closed chapter in my life.
Well, okay, so you're not in California, but here you are at freeFall for the second time in 3 years. Say something, I don't know, say something nice about Eric Davis, because he's going to be watching this at some point.
You know, when I got the email from Eric, there were some heavy things going on with rents and you know, this is happening across the nation right now, and it was affecting me. And I said to a friend of mine, I said, this is the only shiny thing in my life, you know, is Eric sent me an email about this show. And never mind, I mean, the opportunity to do a Neil Simon play. I've done scenes in class, you know, but I've never actually done a Neil Simon play. And so I'm very honored, you know, to be working on that material. But freeFall, and this was the experience I had, you know, Eric played one of my sons in The Lion in Winter. So he wasn't directing that show, though he did do all of our costumes. So it was a very intimate relationship anyway. I really feel the family here at freeFall. You know, theaters like that, generally speaking anyway, especially smaller theaters, you know, I think when you get really big, Broadway, as you know, Patrick and I have talked about, sometimes it can sort of have a little bit of that cold show business feel, but freeFall is a real family, and I'm so grateful that they consider me a member of the family. If I hadn't gotten that email, I wouldn't have really known that. I was already grateful that I got to do a play right before the shutdown. I said that to many friends over the last couple of years, like, well, I got to do a play, you know, thank God I got to do a play, you know, before we were completely, you know, cut out from that opportunity. And to come back to freeFall is a really nice bookend, you know, to saying, I know the pandemic's not completely over, but it does sort of feel like a period at the end of the sentence to be able to come back.
Well, Patrick, let me throw the question your way. You know, you've done more than a half dozen shows at freeFall over the years. You are also a hardworking guy. What do you feel about freeFall? Are you happy to be back? I mean, there's the,
you know,
the Barbara Walters question, as it were. You know?
You know, being completely honest, Bill, and I've been asked this question in different facets, in my career. When you mentioned the 42nd Street,
Yeah.
I'm only saying this to talk about freeFall. My name was above the title of the show on Broadway, and 3 of my favorite shows in my life have been here. And my number one favorite that I've ever done, bar none, period, was at freeFall. It was the best directed, best acted, wonderful script. So coming back it's soul filling.
So what show was that? You have to tell us then.
Empty Plate at Cafe de Grande Bouffe.
Wow.
It was a Michael Hollinger play, and it was the most glorious words I've ever said. It was the most gloriously directed. It was so phenomenal. I mean, basically, the short end of it, it's about a guy, richest guy on the planet, has a restaurant with only one table in it because it's his. And he decides to come in and commit suicide by starvation.
Another feel-good show, kind of like Rose and Walsh.
No, you know what's amazing? And again, with this show, Empty Plate had so much heart, as well as this show's got a lot of heart.
Yeah.
But also Empty Plate is as witty and as funny. One of the last moments in the show is one of the biggest laughs I've ever heard at a theater. And it was a dark laugh. It was beautifully set up for an hour and a half.
So
it's, yeah, I love coming to this theater. It's one of the biggest and most joyous parts of my life.
Let's just recap here for the folks watching. Rose and Walsh opens tonight. If you're watching this on Friday, July 29th, it opens tonight at freeFall Theater. You want to find tickets at freefalltheater.com, and that's theater with the R-E, folks, the correct way to spell it. And it runs through August 28th. Patrick, Ryan, Sullivan, Stephanie Dunnam, absolute pleasure to talk to you guys, and I wish you broken legs all around and a most successful run with Rose and Walsh. So
well, thank you, Bill. Thanks for having us on.
Have a happy opening night. See you soon.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.